What's going on, everybody? So today in this video, what we're going to be going through is building out a CRM and Airtable to manage all of my clients, and specifically all of the Calendly calls that I have with clients. In our last video, what we went through was mapping the system out to make sure we have the right data hierarchy, the right data structure. And in this video, we're going to be starting to build that out. So if you haven't watched the last video and you want to learn why it's built the way it is in Airtable, then go check that out. It'll be in the description and you can rewatch that. But without further ado, we're going to jump right in. Also, a little bit about me. My name is Ben, and I build these systems for clients all the time, kind of replacing any need for tools like Salesforce. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to jump right in, and we're going to start with this. So make that a little bit smaller. Quick refresher on the structure to the system. And specifically what we're going to be building out are 3 of these tables. So the 3 tables, there's going to be the company table, the contacts, and the CRM activities. Specifically in this call, just one of the CRM activity types, but it's going to build the foundation for all of them. We're also going to do this. We should be able to get into some of the automations, specifically just with Calendly, and I'm really excited for that. So these are the things we're going to be building out, is the companies, contacts, and CRM activities. So I already started on a database here in Airtable. I just added one table in and was messing around with this earlier, but I didn't want to get too far without doing it all on the screen. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding a few different tables. Now, tables are up here at the top. So currently we just have SOPs, and this is, I had previously, I think in that last video, talked about maybe using Notion. I'm not going to make it too complicated at first. We're just going to use all the SOPs here in Airtable. But first, we're going to ignore the SOPs, and we're just going to jump right into the contacts table. So we're going to create a new blank table for contacts. Should be contacts. Contacts, they have quite a few different pieces of data that you collect on one contact. Most of these default things here in Airtable, they are going to be obsolete for the contacts. Notes, we may have. So things that a contact has, every contact has a name, and this first field is already named that. I'm going to make this first field an ID, which is eventually going to become a formula. For now, I'm going to make this an auto number field because I don't know exactly what I want in that first field yet. So for now, this first field is going to be ID. I'm going to leave this in here. I'm going to add a few fields. So quick hack to add the fields where you want is you right click somewhere, insert a field to the left or the right. I want to add a name field. So I have their name. I also want to add a email field. I also want to add a phone field. And I also want a few other things, like I want to know what company they're at, maybe the website URL of their company, maybe the billing address of their company. But those are going to be in the company table. So we're going to hold our horses right now on that one, and we're just going to add one more thing, which will be the linked in URL. That'll be a URL field. So let me review this real fast. If we bring the Miro board back over, here, contacts is very simple, just email, phone, and name. Now we're going to build out the company table. So this, we're already getting to like the best part about Airtable, which is linked records. Allows you to relate different pieces of information. So I'm going to add myself in here. This would also be something some people sometimes do, is you might have a name field, and you might have a first name field, and you might have a last name field. For now, I'm going to leave all 3 of these in here until I know how I'm going to deal with names more so than this. Because sometimes, for example, from email, I know I'll have their full name. Other times, if it's coming from Calendly, I have the option to gather their first and last name. Yeah, other times, if it's like from ConvertKit, I will, or like a email solution, I'll just have their first name, like an email opt-in. but for now I'm going to leave all of these in here. So it's going to be Ben Green, Ben at optimizeis.com, 260-460-7084. I'd put in my LinkedIn profile here and any notes about me. Now the coolest part about Airtable is we're going to add what's called a linked record field. So you could either hit this plus button down here at the end, or like I was saying earlier, add a field to the left or the right of any field that exists so far. So if I come in here and I add a new linked record, this is a hack. I think of it as a hack if you don't want to have to delete those obnoxious fields at the beginning. If you create a new table via the linked record, so if I press the plus, link to another record, create a new table, here I can name the table companies. And when I go to the companies table, it doesn't have a bunch of records that I don't want. It doesn't have a bunch of fields that I don't want. It's just that one linked record back to the contacts table. So this one as well, I'm just going to have this one as an ID to start off, and I'll just leave it. Actually, yeah, we'll make this one an auto number for now as well. This first field is significant in Airtable. It's called in databases, it's called the primary field. If you're familiar with Access, that might sound familiar. In Airtable, it matters a lot because that's what you search by. Like if I come in here and search, if I want to search for Ben, I can't find it. But if I search for one shows up. So basically you can search in this linked record field in this table for anything in this first column. We'll get into more of that later on. We will be changing these from auto number to be something more descriptive. That will include anything I would want to search by while linking records. So one company will have a company name. Also, one thing I see people do often is they'll name these fields. They'll have name here and they'll want to name it company name. I find this rather redundant because we're on the companies table, and if there's a name field, I always read any field, company's name. If I add like a website URL, it'd be the company's website URL. From the contacts table, here's the contact's first name. Here's the contact's company. So I'm going to go back to the companies table now. So the name of the business is Optimize IS. We're also going to have a website. And let's see anything else. So in here I put name and department. Now I think for this that will work. The reason why I put name and department is because certain times I will work with a client that is all at one company, but I might bill 3 separate ways. And so I really, technically, on my end, I really consider them 3 different companies. I might be even working with many people on each team within or department within the company, but I bill them separately, I track their hours separately, completely different relationships with them. So that's why I put name and company. Now, all of these other things, we have service agreement here and status. Yes, that is perfect. So we will add those. So here we will have a attachment field for service agreement, which this will eventually be automated. We will get to that again in a later video. And then the other thing that I'm going to add is the status. So previously I had kept track of a lead status on the contacts table. In almost every service business that I work with, I build out I build out a opportunities table. That way one company might have many opportunities attached to it, like you could sell to them multiple times. For me, I'm not going to do that because that's just not quite the way. I don't need that added complexity compared to certain service businesses. So we're going to keep track of the sales or the deal stage at the company and department level. So I'm going to call this a deal stage. Now my first deal stage is going to be pre-consultation because everybody starts out at pre-consultation. even if somebody books a consultation call, I have not had the consultation call yet, and so that's where they're at. Now this deal stage concept, this is something I've conceptualized a lot because I've dealt with so many different types of businesses, and the deal stage is really important because to me, every business provides a transformation, and they're taking, like for me, I take people with no Airtable experience or little, they can kind of see the vision for Airtable, and I get them a solution that works really, really well. And it helps them increase throughput up, dramatically increase their revenue potential, cut costs. A lot of different things happen when you have a really good Airtable system like this. So that's the transformation I provide. So in this deal stage, I'm going to map out the different steps to take to know where somebody's at in that transformation. I see this all the time with other people. They'll have the same thing. Like a real estate contract has stages that it starts out as a non-executed contract, then it's executed, which from my understanding means that it's signed, and then it goes through all of the stages of a real estate contract, and eventually it's closed. So for a while it's pending, eventually it's closed, and that's the transformation that a real estate agent provides. For me, this is going to be my sale, all the way from my sales to when the customer doesn't need my help anymore. So it's going to start out pre-consultation. The next one is going to be no show. Actually, we'll put that somewhere last. The next one that I have is needs follow up. So the other thing that I do with these deal stages is they should always inform what the next action is. So if someone's pre-consultation, that means either they need their consultation booked or we're just waiting for that to happen. So they're either on a nurture sequence or they booked their call, it just hasn't happened yet, or I haven't updated them in the system. After that consultation call, they either need follow-up, so then I put them in that stage, and then eventually, once I follow up with them, then they are in awaiting additional info. So that means I've followed up with them, waiting to hear back from them. After that, then they are in ready to start. So if they're in ready to start, that means we've agreed on the terms. We are just waiting to start the engagement for whatever reason. Maybe it's like invoicing, maybe it's they don't want to start for another 2 weeks. There's lots of people like this. One other thing that I categorize clients as, and these I guess would not be clients, but I differentiate in here, are long-term dream clients. And these are people I just want to do very manual, like high touches with to try to get them as a client long-term. So I usually use this as a tag to say somebody, I don't want to consider them fully lost. I don't want to say that they're still in kind of the sales cycle. It's just someone I'd really like to work with long-term. So after ready to start, after long-term dream client, and I'm going to take the S off there. Then we have the fun one, which is closed one. I have another one, which is closed one and done. And then I have closed lost. Let's see. Another one would be a connection. I have to be careful using commas because commas are really tricky in databases, because things in a list like this linked record field to contacts, that would be a comma separated list. So I try as much as I can to not use commas anywhere, if you'll notice over this series. So we'll have connection, not client. And then we'll have that last one, which we called no show earlier. So the other thing I would typically usually do is make sure these are colored properly. So closed lost is always red, closed one is always green. Long-term dream client, for whatever reason, always ends up being yellow, and the rest of these don't matter as much. These are, there's only one other one that I'm thinking of, and that is trash, junk mail. But usually I just put trash. Trash is always black. Sweet. So that's the deal stage. Optimize iOS, if they booked their call today, they would be pre-consultation if they booked it for tomorrow. Now, the next piece of the puzzle, because we have contacts, we have companies, is we want to keep track of communication or CRM activities on these contacts. So what you'll see here is we have contacts are linked to companies, and one company may have many contacts, but one contact should only be linked to one company. So we will need to update that. So we can enforce that rule here in Airtable. So if you double click on any field header, like if I double click on contacts, I can see we allow to link to multiple records. So we can link to multiple contacts. But if I go to the contacts table and I look at this companies, I only want to link to one company. So I'm going to limit it that way. Now back on the on the companies, we'll pull this back in. So now I want to bring in these CRM activities. CRM activities, a few of the types are inbound emails, outbound emails, audit call recaps, ConvertKit, tags, Calendly calls, documents, reviews. Those are all types of CRM activities. And in order to bring in CRM activities this first time, I'm going to export from Calendly a list of all my Calendly calls. And that's going to be the start. There's going to be a ton of fields in here that only relate to Calendly calls, but I don't care. They're all going to be in this one location, and we're going to deal with it. I'm excited. So I'm going to go jump into Calendly, and I'll bring it over here, and we'll export from Calendly, and then I'll show you to import a CSV into Airtable. All right, so now we're in Calendly, and this is what it looks like. I have a bunch of different event types. Basically, I want to export all of my calls from forever, and you can see I have booked 1,654 calls. That's not like all sales calls, it's not all client calls, it's a mix of all of the types of calls. And basically what you want to do is go to my Calendly. If you're on a team, you want to say all users and team. You want to click this right here and change it to all users and teams. And then I did a date range that I know is before I started using Calendly and until after today. And that's how I got this 1,654 number. Then what you want to do is you want to hit export. For me, it's going to say there's a ton of results. So I believe it's going to send me an email. So I'm going to wait for that email. And once it loads up, I'll bring it up and we'll download it and we'll import it into Airtable. All right, so Calendly successfully loaded everything in here. They exported everything successfully. I downloaded it. It's right here now. So first it downloaded this zip file, and then I opened that zip file and it popped out this. So now I'm going to go import those into Airtable. So to do that, I'm going to click add or import here. I'm going to click CSV file. I'm going to open this Finder window back up down here, drag in these. Now I should be able to hit X on my Finder window. Then I'm going to hit upload. I do want to create a new table. And now what I want to do is I want to import all of this data. I could go through here field by field and try to figure out what exactly is the field type for each of these, but I'm just going to deal with that in Airtable, and I'm also going to filter it towards just Ben Green. So I'm going to click import here, and it's going to go right into Airtable. All right, so in an effort to protect some of the information there, this is everything for Ben Green, and we'll just go through each of these one by one. So when you import it, it's going to bring in some stuff like this. We don't really want the first field to actually be the username in our actual system, so I'm going to duplicate that. What that does by duplicating the cells is I don't lose any of the information, even though I'm in this filtered view where it's just Ben Green. And we can actually even just make it Ben Green. So in this filtered view, I want to, again, I'm going to just change this to ID for now because I'm not 100% sure as I'm building this what I want those fields to be, those primary fields. Now that I've changed that, because you can't, basically what it's going to say, if I try to change this to ID, it wants each field to be unique. So now that I've changed that first one to ID, I can reuse username. Team here, that is the different teams on the different events. Invitee name, that will be the name of the person. And I'm fine with just changing each of these to text, which is also going to unfilter it. So I'm going to change it to text, and I'm going to re-add my filter. All right, so that looked just a little bit differently there. Now this filter says the invitee name field contains Ben Green, whereas before it said invitee first name is Ben. So that's fine. Now I'm going to change this one to a single line text. Basically, a lot of this is just cleaning things up, making it usable for other types of data. And now I can delete that filter since it's no longer relevant. That's also going to be text. I'm going to go through these and change quite a few of these. So I'll be right back. Sweet. So I think I've changed everything that I wanted to change. We have a lot of imported data in here, but basically the rest of this. So this is actually something that gets brought up a lot. I'm real quick going to change this to just interactions or activities, because previously they were going to be called CRM activities, so that works. So down here at the end, there's question 1, response 1, question 2, response 2, question 3, response 3, question 4, response 4. So previously I'd had a few different fields living on the context table when it came to my audit call. So on my audit call, I have like 7 different questions, and basically it says like, what's your biggest obstacle? What's your business website? What's your name? What's your email? And a few questions like that. Like what's your goal, maybe something, a few questions like that. And previously, one of the limitations with like Zapier or with Make is you have to map the responses to those into the right fields. But Calendly, when you book a Calendly call on the back end, when you map things in Zapier or Make, is it uses the order in which the questions, not so much the actual questions themselves, but it uses the order of the questions to force you to map things in the right way. So I'm fine with that, but for now, I'm going to come up with more of a solution after the fact, and I'm going to map in all of my question 1, response 1, question 2, response 2 into just the activities table, which these are all Calendly calls. So for Calendly calls, they'll use those fields. Most other types of CRM activities will not use those fields. Other things down here at the end are like UTMs, so I can see campaign, source, medium, term, content. Oh, the other thing that is very annoying with Zapier or with Make is I would ask these like really good questions and get really good answers. And someone say like it'd been like 6 months since they booked a call with me, and like they're a client and maybe they're like not actively using our Slack channel or something, they'll go book another call on the website. And it just goes and wipes out their old information. And that's fine, technically. But I like to go back and see their old information. But currently it just wipes it all out. So this will give me a way to see if somebody books multiple of the same call, specifically that audit call, I'll be able to see those changes over time. Now, using the Miro board, I'm going to add a few last things and then we'll be done with this video. So I'm going to add a few things to these CRM activities. So we already have the date. So we have the start date and end date. The start date I will probably make more universal to be like the day somebody emailed me, the day I received a document, the day I added a ConvertKit tag on somebody. All of those will apply there. Now, I also want to add a few things like the type. So when I use make to bring these things in, I'm going to have a type. I'm going to have inbound emails, outbound emails. Actually, these should just be singular. I'm going to have audit, call, recap, convert, kit, added, convert, kit, tag, Calendly, document, review. So those are going to be all my types for now. Everything existing in here currently is going to be Calendly, which is perfect. For Calendly, one thing I really want to have is a way to have one-off calls and recurring calls, because one of the things that I'm going to be doing, and everything's going to default as one-off. One of the things I'm really excited to do with this system is be able to track follow-ups from calls. So I'll have a call with somebody, all my calls will be synced into this calendar or into Airtable, and I can go to a call and I can log tasks for myself to do or for the client to do. The only trick is with recurring calls, the client doesn't rebook that same call. And so certain clients, I just have like a once a week call with them and I want to keep a running list, but I don't want to do it necessarily differently than I would for a different client where they do have one-off calls. So you'll have to wait and see. I'm excited to build a really functional system around tasks in Airtable. And this will be call type, which again will only be used if it's a call. All of these were defaulted as one-offs. So here we have type of communication. This is going to be used as most of our dates is just going to be the start date. Other things we have is we have minutes, agenda, and a link to tasks. So we don't have a task table yet. Minutes, that may be useful to have if I don't already have a notes field in here. So there's meeting notes. I can use meeting notes. So previously what I would do is I would take this field and I would drag it. That can be a little bit tedious. They've really improved this recently. So basically you can click hide fields, scroll through here to find meeting notes, and you can click on these 6 dots and you can drag it up. So I want that to be right next to our call type. Other things I might have is an agenda, which may be different than the tasks or the action items going out of the call. And I think that's pretty much it on CRM activities, except I still need to link it to a contact, and I'm going to link it to a company. That way they get categorized correctly. So I want to come in here and add a field to the right. Actually, I'll add a field. Yeah, well, doing it to the left now. Add a field and link it to the contacts. So I may have a call with multiple people. That's fine. And I also may have a call with only one person. And one person may have many calls. So activities to contacts is actually going to be many to many. But if I'm on a call, it will most likely be with just one company. So I'm going to right click up here, add a field to the right, link a record to the companies table. Here I'm going to uncheck this because each activity should only be with one company. Sweet. So what that means is now here I can add a company and I can add a contact. On contacts, this plus button shows up to add multiple contacts, whereas on companies it doesn't, because this activity I could have a call with 3 people, or I could have this call with one person. So that's everything for this video. That's building out the contacts, companies, and activities table in Airtable. This is going to fully replace any need for Salesforce for most businesses. The only other complexity I typically might see is a opportunities table. I don't need that complexity right now, so I'm not building it into this system. But in the next video, what we're going to be going through is automatic, because this is in here now. I've imported my data. I need every single Calendly call to come in here, just like this. And I want it to link to a contact at a minimum. So that's going to be what's next on the docket. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, but you can go in the end screen right here and go to the next video, which will be using Make to bring in these Calendly calls now that we have this set up.